Good morning. Today, we are going to talk to a guy who missed the last NPL non-performing loan opportunity, but absolutely refuses to miss it this time. Stay tuned.
Well, welcome back to NoteSchool TV, where we are every single Wednesday at 11:05 Central Time. So I'm super glad you're here. If this is your first time or you have been attending for the last several months and almost a year now, would love to say hello to you. So definitely go to the comments real quick. Say hello. Tell me where you're from. We have a lot of returning guests. I see some names that are very familiar, which is always super encouraging. We're trying to bring the best content we possibly can to not just help you better understand the note business, better understand how you can adapt in your business model, but even for some of you, give you hope that in today's marketplace, there is a huge opportunity if you'll just embrace a little bit of specialized knowledge and take action. And so we've got some really cool stuff for you today. For those of you who need to know what that next step is and how do I go about taking that next step? Well, outside of watching NoteSchool TV like you are right now, you can always go to noteschool.com/TV to learn a little bit more about what that needs to look like for you and maybe some actual steps that you can take to get going. And as we bring this content across the interwebs to your home, to your phone, wherever it is, if it's valuable to you, man, it means a lot to us if you will like this video. If you just simply go and click that like button right now, we look at these metrics afterwards and we say, hey, a lot of people are liking this. We need to make more content like this. This helps us really drive the best content we can over to your devices. And as always, man, please comment. That's what this whole show is all about. Bring your questions, bring your thoughts. Just feel free to chime in. And if it's really a valuable thing for you, go ahead and share this video. Take this video and maybe your business partner needs to see it, your family needs to see it, whoever it is. And as always, if you're wanting more of this, it's really simple, folks. Click the subscribe button. When you click subscribe, guess what? More of these videos, every time they come out, we're going to put them into your feed. Not we, but you know, the YouTubes of the world, and they will come down and they'll put them in your feed. And you can also click that bell notification. For this show specifically, it's really important because by clicking the bell, it tells your device to remind you that we're going live. And we actually send out alert a little bit ahead of time saying, hey, we're going live in 30 minutes. Be ready, jump on, bring your questions, and we'll make it happen. And so we're going to dive into some pretty interesting stuff today. But before we do, we got to check out what's going on in the news. Well, Mr. Joe, how we doing? What you got?
Well, you know, Brian, it is, we've been doing this for 10 months now, NoteSchool TV. And Brian, it has been, gosh, it has been interesting to see kind of how we've grown as a team doing this, you, me, and Eddie, and what's gone on in this crazy market, right?
That's it.
So in the news this week, we've got a couple of quick stories. I certainly want to get to our guest today because, man, you guys are gonna love him. Fannie Mae nearly doubles price growth forecast. Okay, and this is more the article. This is from Credible and why you should refinance now. But I chose this simply because even with all the news that's going on, that prices are still going up and inventory is still going down. It's getting better in some areas. It is still forecast at a 14.8% year-over-year growth this year. 14.8%. So guys, as we love to say, real estate is on fire. And then the second part of that is the top 50 hottest zip codes in the U.S. were released by Realtor.com. I've got the top 10 here. And Brian, you just recently moved, right?
I did.
Did you move to Colorado Springs?
No, just north. I'm in a town called Castle Rock. Yeah. But
well,
we're
see the number one there, right?
Yeah, it is bananas out here. I will say that.
36% year over year. Number of days on market, 4 days. And Brian, it just goes from 4 to, the highest is 9 days here in Concord, New Hampshire on the market. But you can see that it's amazing stuff. And I was just reading before the call that Austin, Texas, obviously, they have had 2,700 homes sell this year for $100,000 or more above asking price.
I mean, just come on. That's just crazy.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So, it kind of works in as far as what we're, our plan this month, or our show structure this month has been non-performing loans, right? So we started out the first of the month with Chaz Gwynn, the CEO of Revolve Capital, who's bought hundreds of millions of dollars in non-performing loans for his company. And then we had Justin Wagner on as our guest last week, who knocked it out of the freaking park in the last opportunity out there. And today's guest, wasn't in the right space to participate in the last run up, right, in the last opportunity. So, but this guy, has he's made a commitment and he has gone all in. I had a friend of mine that graduated from the U.S. Naval Academy, and when you walk into the cafeteria, there's this big tub of apples, and on the wall it says, "Damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead." And I think that's this guy's motto at this point. So our guest this week is none other than Mr. Brian Lochner.
That's right. That is it. I'm here.
You're here, baby. You are here and here to stay. And Brian, it has been amazing. We have you've been a member of the NoteSchool team since January of 2020.
Yeah, that's it.
And Eddie would call you our lead bird, right? I mean, you're the guy that he called me that for years, and now Brian is doing that space and doing it admirably. And gosh, I remember last May or March when you were doing your first live event, right? Live speaking event. Boom, right? What happens? Yeah. Well, we all know what happened in March of 2020. So, Brian, give us a little background and tell us about you and your background, right?
Yeah, for sure. So, I guess I bought my first piece of property in 2008, but really the real estate investing world really wasn't that big of a thing for me until about 2014. And I was working for this software company and went into work one day and they're like, "Hey, listen, you don't have a job here." And I was like, "Oh, awesome." Right. And so I'm getting fired today. And, like a lot of people who have been fired, they've got other obligations. They've got to make sure they're, taken care of. And so I had a mortgage at the time. I had a wife who was pregnant. I had a son. I had lots of reasons to make money, but I really didn't have a job anymore. And I was the only income earner in my family. So that posed a little bit of a problem. So as my wife and I kind of talked through this, it really became all right, what's next, right? And I got that phone call. It was actually from my dad, which is really cool. He called and said, "Hey, there's this thing where you can learn to buy and sell houses with none of your own money." And obviously, Joe, what did I say? That's great. I have no money, right? And so it became this interesting thing of, I think I might be able to entertain this world of wholesaling. And at the time, you got to understand different parts of the market cycle. I mean, you can do different things. And at that time, wholesaling was a lot easier than it is maybe today. And so I started as a wholesaler, went full-time into wholesaling, was able to make a living doing it. But that just kind of grew into everything else, right? I started fixing and flipping houses because I thought I could make more money. And how hard could it be? And so I tried to start buying 5, 6, 8, 10 houses at a time to flip, and fixing and flipping houses while they could make a lot of money. I was driving around town all the time. And so then I tried to figure out, how do I become more passive? And that's what got me into like rental properties and land banking. I was a lender for a while. And I even started my own property management company because I thought I could do it that much better, but it only lasted about 6 months. And so I say all that because I kind of feel like I tried all these different things, and I heard all these different speakers over the years talk about different strategies, and it was just one shiny object after another, right? Until Mr. Eddie Speed came along, right? And that's kind of when things, I guess, I would say shifted a little bit. But I am not. I wouldn't say I'm the sharpest crayon in the box, because I actually met Eddie in 2016, Joe. A lot of people don't realize that I met Eddie earlier on, but he actually spoke about really the non-performing market, and this was in 2016. So in 2016, I was like, 2 years in business. I was doing pretty well, at least in my mind. I was making more money then than I was at my jobs, and so I'm finally starting feeling good. And Eddie's talking about this really cool stuff, but I'm like, this is all about like building your wealth, which is cool. Like, of course we want to build our wealth, right, Joe?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I got bills to pay. I got kids to feed, and I got stuff like that I got to pay for. So I know this is going to surprise you that I wasn't paying 100% attention to somebody speaking, but I missed when he talked about how this can be a way to make money now and make money later. And so I just didn't put much weight into it. And it wasn't about 2 years even later, 2018, when I finally came back around and was like, look, the market shifted.
Right.
And that's a super important phrase, I think, because this is really something everybody's witnessing now. Whereas my market, Dallas, Texas at the time, the market shifted in 2018. So I was struggling to get wholesale deals. I was struggling to get deals to flip. I was just struggling to get deals. And I got kind of reintroduced to Eddie, and I thought, man, we gotta have a conversation. And really at that time, it was all about creative financing,
right.
And he even told me that non-performing notes, it's not a thing right now.
Right. Oh yeah.
But I wanted to make money, Joe.
So, and it's funny because you hear it now, and I heard it for many years when I was out talking to people and, getting people to come to one of our one-day classes and all of that. And I'm sure it was like, you said to Eddie, wow, that's interesting, right? I've heard it a million times. Wow, that's really interesting. Notes. Yeah, interesting. And you're like, okay, you coming, you're going to come see us and learn more. Right? Anyway. But that's what that looks like for some reason. And so I don't know if that's me or if that's something else. I'm not sure.
I think I'm the same way. And my dad was there with me, and he even said the same thing. Like, this is really cool, but is it a now thing? You didn't really know. When you take somebody who's been in business for 40 years and they see this huge picture, they're telling you it's like medicine. They're telling you this is what you need to really pay attention to. But we're not really super open to taking medicine, right? Like, it's just a reality. And so now the market has shifted for all of us. And there is a non-performing market. And actually, when Eddie asked me to join the teaching team in January 2020, I was going to talk about, creative financing and raising capital and all these things, because non-performing notes, guess what, Joe? It still wasn't a thing.
It was not. And, we used to talk about them a lot, and it went away. And then, who knew in January that, 2 months later, we were going to see this whole thing start to stack up. And we've been talking about this. And so that's what it looks like. I mean, it's just kind of stacked up here. So, Brian, tell us a little bit about your deal, right? About this is your first non-performing loan deal.
Yes, I have been waiting. I've been waiting patiently, and I've tried to have capital available. And I got to tell you, last summer, I was thinking, man, I'm going to be ready. I'm going to be ready. And it just wasn't quite ready. And one of the things I love about being plugged in with NoteSchool is it's almost like this. You get the buy signal, you get the thumbs up. Hey, now's the time to get to actually start buying, right? And so I was able to get the thumbs up that, hey, there's a real market here. And so I started looking for notes. And I actually found this note on Notes Direct, who's one of our sponsor. And what's really cool is this note is it's actually a featured asset we also did on Feeding Frenzy Friday. So this note was available to NoteSchool students. This note was available. Even I helped explain it on Feeding Frenzy Friday. And I even waited like 2 weeks to see if somebody was going to buy it, because I just couldn't believe it. And nobody bought it, Joe. And so I was like, well, I'm not going to wait. I'm going to jump on this thing. So I looked at the note. It was in Missouri as a non-performing note. It was I could buy it for about 80 grand. Mm-hmm. And The reason I decided to jump specifically on this one is I was looking through some of the notes and it said the auction is set for that following Monday. So this is like a Wednesday.
Right.
I'm sitting here thinking, okay, Eddie talks about how there's equity in these properties. And because there's equity, I'm probably not going to get the house. I'm probably just going to get paid off. And so on Thursday, I clicked the buy button and I said, I want to buy it, but I don't want to take I want to like fund it right now. Like I want to be the owner of this before this week is over, because I thought I might have a little upside if it goes to auction on or the courthouse steps on Monday and it sells. I could put 80 grand in. The unpaid balance was about 101, and so I'm thinking I might be able to make 20 grand in less than a week. This could be really fascinating, right? You got a little bit of an upside, and so I was like, let's hurry up and speed this thing up. Ultimately, what happened is, again, the numbers are, I bought it for 80. I'm owed 101. Now I'm owed like a little more than that. And the house is worth 240,000. So there was some equity in the property, and we just assumed, all right, I'm going to eventually get paid off. Well, the borrower actually filed bankruptcy, Chapter 7. Really kind of like a last second thing. And so that kind of changes the course of the process. But really, I'm just sitting back waiting for the attorney to tell me what to do. And the guy basically decided he's going to surrender the house. And so what's interesting is now I'm in it for 80. I'm owed 101. The house is worth 240. And we're trying to figure out, can I move forward? Should I offer a deed in lieu? All these things. And now the attorney's saying, actually, he's going to surrender it. You probably don't even have to do a deed in lieu. And literally, like, I'm waiting today or tomorrow to get an answer on that. If we can just do here's the keys, here's the property. We've got to get some legal things taken care of. But what's crazy is I got into this non-performing note in hopes of making a quick 20 grand. And now I might end up with a house that's worth substantially more. And that obviously gives me some options, right, Joe?
That's right. So, Brian, let's talk about something here, because one of the things that you said, I'm sure it kind of scared a couple of people, right? Because you said that BK thing, right? Oh, they filed for bankruptcy. And let me tell you something. Bankruptcy has never, I was in non-performing notes the last time, right? And back in, the run up between, at the Great Recession, and did, 300. And the bankruptcy thing, it simply means that the bankruptcy trustee, whether it's a 7 or a 13, now it puts that in control of that trustee. And if you can pay for the house, you get to keep it. Right? If you can't pay for the house and the bankruptcy trustee determines that goes outside of that bankruptcy stay, that stay that's over all of the assets of the property owner, and it goes outside of that, and foreclosure is very easy. So it is a very, very clear-cut path. As a matter of fact, I love to work with those because you don't have to sit around a long time. It is in process the whole way. So, Brian, that was one of the things that, and I know it scares people when they hear that. Right? They go, oh my God, because now they file bankruptcy, they don't have to pay me, right? Not true. It just defines the process very quickly.
Yeah.
So you bought this thing for 80. It's got a legal balance of 101, 102, and it's worth $240,000. So, Brian, there's not much of a downside there, buddy.
That's true. There's not. And this is obviously why I've been waiting for non-performing, is we all know we make our money on the buy, right? As a guy who made a living buying at a very deep discount in order to generate a little bit of a profit, I understand buying it cheap is obviously the key to this thing. And so it really kind of protects you when really even the worst case scenario is kind of an upside, right? It's kind of a good thing.
And this is, we heard Ryan or Justin Wagner talking last week, and with you and Eddie and I, and that was it back in the day. The last one, it was a whole different thing, because most of these loans, there was never 100, and the borrower never had, $170,000 in equity in a property. They had minus 25. Right? It was worth a whole lot less than they owed on the property. So that is the difference in the significance that we have this time that we didn't have last time. So, right, I mean, this thing is, yeah, you're going to knock it out of the park. So let's talk a little bit about, so some people will say, okay, well, gosh, Brian, he's got this $80,000. He can just go out and write a check. So talk a little bit about your, capital and what you've been doing great there as well.
Yeah, so I kind of view it this way, right? Like there's obviously a lot of ways you can do it. I am very much of the opinion of like, what's like water, what's the path of least resistance, right? And I see if there's an inventory market that's available, there's this non-performing market that's available, especially if you're getting involved with NoteSchool, using Notes Direct, that kind of stuff, you've got access to that. But then how are you going to fund that? Well, Eddie's talked about for over a year now how there's all these burnout landlords, there's all these investors who have all this money. The market's been going crazy for a decade. People have capital. They want to lock it up into something that's a lower risk profile than, throwing it in the stock market for the next 10 years. And so if there's a market for assets and there's a market for money, I want to be the guy that puts them together, right? And this is really how I grew my fix and flip business for houses. So I'm just basically duplicating that in the note business. Non-performing notes is the fix and flip side of the paper side of real estate, right? And so really, I've started to contact investors, and the presentation is as simple as this, right? Look, this is the market condition. Here's an opportunity to have a lower risk. Instead of loaning me 70, 80 cents on the dollar, you can loan me 30, 40, 50, 60, whatever it ends up being. I can get some favorable terms, and now I could take that money and grow it. And so, I started out by raising about $140,000, like 142 is like a random number. And that was money that we were going to be locking up into performing notes. But then we started to sit on that and sit on that and sit on that because I was waiting for this thumbs up, right? I was waiting for the market as a go. And so we sat on this money a little bit longer than I would definitely have hoped, but it allowed me to start buying some non-performing notes. And then it was actually the Chaz Gwynn episode of NoteSchool TV. If you haven't watched it, you've got to go back and watch it, because it really inspired me to realize, like, okay, this dude's doing, it's a whole nother level, right? But as the individual investor, there's plenty of opportunity for me. And so it kind of inspired me to be like, all right, I got to get serious, and we got to start talking about raising more money. So developing relationships, we just secured another $250,000. And my goal is to try to raise or get a commitment for about $1 million really over like the next 90 days. And that's going to really put me in a spot to where I'm getting closer to that 1.5 million. And really the objective is to use that capital to turn it over and over. And what's unique about, I think, what Eddie's talked about in the past 2 episodes of NoteSchool TV is, since you're going to get paid off, your time frame to getting money is a lot faster, right? And so if I can use that money, get into these things, get paid off, redeploy it into another note, capture what I can, get paid off, and I can just do that over and over, well, then maybe I can turn this same amount of money a lot faster, rather than locking it all up into, I'm going to find a penalty box buyer, I'm going to create my own note, I'm going to sell that note or sell a parcel of that. I think that's a really great plan long term. But if this is a market cycle that's going to last, if non-performing notes are going to be big for, say, I don't know, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, whatever Eddie says, right? Then I'm going to turn the money as fast as I can over the next couple of years. And maybe in year 3 or 4, instead of turning it, that's when we start to lock it up. And we create our own notes and we create our long-term plan. But I'll generate a substantial amount more cash to be able to lock it up. And I won't have to rely as much on investors, and you get the picture.
Well, Brian, we talk about money now and money, money today, money tomorrow. And this is money today, right? I mean, there's opportunities and you want to act right now. And just to kind of put it into perspective, you talked about before you were doing buy, fix, and sell, right? You were buying an ugly house and then you were fixing that house. Well, Brian, it's just changed that now you're not buying an ugly house. You're buying an ugly note, right? And you're going through the process of just with a third-party servicer, right? You're not making calls to the people that live in the house. You've got that service by somebody else. You don't have to drive by the house or manage and make sure the roof is getting done today. All of those things, you're just managing the paper here. And the great thing is, you're, formerly of Dallas, now in Colorado, and this note was in Missouri, right? And you're never going to go to where this note is in Missouri.
That's correct. And I would say that was probably my biggest pain point when I was flipping houses, is like total transparency. I'm not good at managing contractors or holding people accountable. It's just not really, I wouldn't say that's my greatest skill set. I really look up to my dad in that way because he's incredible at that.
Right.
But, it's really it was me driving around town flipping houses, and I was just driving all the time. And while I didn't think I minded it that much, you get burned out really quickly. And it only takes about a year or two for you to realize, like, this is just a lot. And that's what is so attractive about this. And so, again, just waiting for the opportunity. And like you said at the beginning, like, I'm like refusing to miss this one. Like, I am absolutely refusing. Even though I'm not going to consider myself the greatest expert in the world with non-performing loans. I haven't bought hundreds of them like some of the people that we've talked to. Listen, I've got a support system through NoteSchool. Obviously, I've got access to be able to buy notes through Notes Direct and stuff like that. The capital is there. Like, this is, I think, the biggest limiting belief for so many people, is just they don't believe that they can raise the money. And it's that kind of that saying of like, well, as long as you believe that, you're right. And that sounds silly, but you're forgetting the market conditions. People are ready to put their money into something that isn't as, I'd say risky as, some of the other markets that have been climbing.
Well, Brian, and this is the same investor he's the burnout he or she are the burnout landlords, right? We know that there's more piles of cash. I have this slide that shows, back in 2008, 2009, there was like $3.8 trillion sitting in money market accounts because didn't know where to go. Today, there's $4.8 trillion sitting in money market accounts. And every self-directed IRA company out there will tell you that, they've got tons of cash sitting, just dry cash, not making anything. And they're looking for something to invest in that's real. And this is as real as it gets. I mean, if you look at what we call the investment to value ratio, your investment is 80, right? And the house is worth 240. Well, you're in it, at 25%? Well, less than that, 20% of value of the property. So there's no investor in the world that wouldn't want to do that.
I think I lost you a little bit. Maybe it's an internet thing, but I did kind of capture a little bit of what you're saying.
Investment value, house being worth 80, house being worth 240, you buying it for 80. Look at the equity and why, as a lender, as an investor, what's my downside, right? I mean, if you don't pay, we're going to get the house.
I simplify it down to this, and this really helped change my thoughts on raising money, is every person on the planet thinks about the same two things. It doesn't matter if you're a hedge fund manager, it's your first time investing in something or whatever. It's always, what do I get? Like, what am I going to get if I put money into this? And obviously there's there's upside or whatever. And then the second thing you've got to address to an investor if you want to raise money is obviously what happens if I get hit by a bus? What happens if things go wrong? And this is the first asset class I've ever been a part of that I could say, hey, look, if things go horribly wrong and I get hit by a bus, you do better. That's not a reason for you to run me over, but that brings some protection to the deal. And it solidifies that conversation of like, hey, maybe this is a good thing to raise money on. So,
well, Brian, let's do this. We've got, questions and all of that. So we're going to go to the after party right here in just a minute. But before we do, we're going to go to one of our favorite segments from our sponsor, which is where you picked up this note to Feeding Frenzy Friday.
That's it. Well, as you heard it, this is sponsored. NoteSchool TV is sponsored by Notes Direct and Feeding Frenzy Friday. And if I didn't explain it well enough, let me make it simple. You can buy notes on Notes Direct by clicking a button. My example, I just did it. I don't get some special access, folks. I even on this asset, even waited for someone else to do it. And so I'm telling you, the opportunities are there. Don't wait to get involved. And if you need to get a little bit more knowledge to build your confidence, that's what this playlist, Feeding Frenzy Friday, is all about. Each week we take a note off of Notes Direct and we break it down. This Missouri non-performing note that I actually bought is one that I did a Feeding Frenzy Friday presentation on. And so I'm telling you, there are real deals that are quality deals that are worth buying. If you just need a little bit of help, that's the first place to go to better understand how to break down some details, increase that knowledge, reduce that risk, and ultimately go click that buy button, right? It can be as simple as that. And if you're looking for even another step, I will tell you that I'm teaching a one-day class really encompassing a lot of this stuff, right? We talk about creating our notes with creative financing, some incredible tax strategies. We talk a lot about obviously performing notes, but we also spend a lot of time talking about non-performing notes, the market at hand, and how we can go about addressing it. It's a full day class. If you'd like to attend, you can simply go to the noteschool.com/TV link we talk about. There's actually a green button that says register for the next class. Click that and then join me. It's this Saturday. It's coming up, and it's a full day class that allows us to really kind of engage, bring your questions, bring your comments, and really get involved so that you're not the Brian Lochner of 2014. You're the Brian Lochner of 2021, simply meaning that you aren't looking back saying, I missed the last non-performing notes. I can't wait for the next one. It's time to get involved. The market opportunity is here. Let's shift a little bit and take advantage of this. So, as always, thanks for joining us on NoteSchool TV. It's really great to be able to kind of engage with you guys a little bit. I love that NoteSchool is bringing the best content across the web. For those of you who can stick around for the after party, hey, we'll plan on seeing you on the other side. For those of you who can't, we'll plan on seeing you next week. Y'all have a great week. All righty.
Very good, Brian. And for those of you that are saying, hey, how do I get these non-performing notes and what are they? Again, you got to go to Notes Direct, right? You have to go to Notes Direct to do that. And Bob Repass, who is our, he is committed to keeping the inventory coming, right, onto Notes Direct so that you'll have plenty of non-performing assets. Eddie and Bob are out there, and Bob's team are searching every day for non-performing assets. So, we've made a commitment, and we're going to continue to do that. So don't worry about the inventory, right? Don't worry about the inventory. So, Brian, we've got folks from all over the U.S. here today, that are in and saying, okay, Brian was a successful real estate investor. Now he's getting into the note space, and just understand that Brian is started where you're starting, right? If you're not done a non-performing note, this is where Brian started, right? That's what it is.
Yeah. And it's really, it's one of these things of like, it's not, don't overcomplicate this. Obviously, I got involved with NoteSchool, and that's what accelerated the learning curve, right? That's why I was kind of telling you, come to the one-day class. It really kind of helps you really better understand kind of how to go out and get involved. I love that some people came to the last class. That's really, really cool. Yep. And so I think that, something to really consider, for those of you who are trying to figure out what that shift is, it really boils down to really where you are in the business, right? If you're brand new, you're trying to get that first deal done. Believe it or not, Eddie at 20 years old, he started in the note business. So it's not like one of these things, because I was talking to an investor, I want to say it was like June, maybe it was July, but it was earlier this summer. And he was talking about how like, this is one of the advanced things, like you grow into being a note investor. And one of the things I love about Eddie that he talks about is how, one, that's not true, but two, the longer you invest in all these other strategies, the more notes, all of a sudden that wisdom brings this note business to make a little bit more sense. I'm always trying to challenge myself a little bit to really kind of embrace the suggestions of somebody who's more experienced, right? Obviously, I kind of jumped in earlier on without knowing everything. That is just a reality, right? But 40 years of business, 50,000 deals. If Eddie says, look, we can show you how to do this. Okay, well then let's give it a shot. And this fit for my goals. And I think it's important to think about with goals, right? We hear from people all the time, and their goals they have different time horizons. Some people want to make money really quickly. Some people want to build wealth. But for my goals, this actually addressed a lot of what I was trying to accomplish. Because yes, you can make money. The reason I struggled with wholesaling and fixing and flipping long-term is a lot of my goals are time-based, right? And so like, I want to be able to like spend time with my family. Like we moved to the mountains for a reason so that we could go out and do stuff. And whereas when I was running around town, running to houses all the time, it didn't matter how much money I was making at the end of the day, if I don't have the time to spend. And I got younger kids, so it's a really important variable. And the note business kind of lined up with what I was trying to do. It allowed me to make money as well as obviously meet the time goals.
And that's so true, Brian. I mean, you want to get into something that is going to give you that lifestyle that you want, right? And the cool thing about that note space is that gives you that opportunity because you're not locked into one geographic location. I can click and buy a note in New York or Seattle or anywhere, or Hawaii for that matter, right? And not have to worry about that because I'm not dealing, so much with the property. And that's what always excited me. I did kind of like you did between 1980 and 1990, when I got into the note business in 1990, right? It was, I just kind of stumbled upon it and I go, wow, this is really cool, right? But this time around is so different, so polar different in many ways that, this is just where the market is, right? Play the ball where it's going, not where it is. And this is where it's going. And we've got a good 2 to 3 year run.
Yeah. And I was trying to think of like, what are some other creative ways to think about kind of getting involved? And, NoteSchool teaches a lot about raising money from burnout landlords and how you can get this long-term money at really, really, in my opinion, inexpensive rates, right? 5, 6, 7%.
Right.
But add some creativity to it, right? Don't let it limit you. If you're truly stuck on, I can't raise that kind of money, then kind of get a little bit more creative. One of the things that I've always really embraced is, what about the people who are already investors? They're definitely going to want more than 6 or 7%. Well, those people are not great for, I would say, performing notes, but what if I could find a way to like partner with them, right? And if I could partner on a 50-50 split, a 70-30 split, a 80-20 split, whatever it is, now I can access their capital. I can be buying notes. I could go out and, obviously make money with someone else's money. Yes, they're going to make a lot of money, but these are deals I would never have access to without that capital. And it still generates revenue for me. And so I'm trying to think of what are some other ways that to help people brainstorm, how I can get involved, because people love to limit themselves.
And Brian, that's what it is. I mean, you've got some people that are that 5-6% money, right? That's what they want to do, right? They just want to get a check every month safely. And then there are others who, they want a little higher rate of return. And when you explain to them the difference between, I'm like you, right? This house is worth $240. We're investing $80,000 in it. I don't want you to get hit by a bus, Brian, but that kind of thing. And and Edwin says, why are non-performing notes good? And Brian, you want to answer that real quick?
Yeah. So from a perspective of the investor, non-performing notes are great because I feel like this is the part of the industry where really the most good can be done, which is nice, right? But it's also where the most money can be made at this point in time. And so non-performing notes are good because these are people who have fallen on hard times. They can't afford to pay their mortgage, and who's willing to help them? The banks aren't necessarily willing to help them. The hedge funds, that's not necessarily their role. They're trying to find somebody else who can step in and say, look, do you want to live here? Can you afford to live here? If you can, Me as the investor, I want to help give you a second chance. We'll kind of modify this loan to help you get repaying. And now this person gets to keep their home. They get a second chance at life. Maybe they've had Christmas there the last 30 years, and now they're being, threatened to possibly have to leave, right? And that threat of possibly having to leave is there. And so there's that component. But from an investor standpoint, they're great because I'm buying them at such a discount, because you understand these banks, they kind of write off this capital they're owed. They write it off as a loss. And that's what allows the price to come down. And that allows somebody like us to step in and say, okay, I'll buy it at a cheap and take the risk of going in and trying to help this person. The good news is if this person can't afford to pay, they won't pay, they refuse to pay or whatever else, my risk doesn't increase because I'm protected by the asset itself.
That's correct.
So if it's a $100,000 house, it's worth $100,000 and I could buy it for whatever, $50,000 or $60,000, there's plenty of equity in there for me to get my money out and some profit.
Right. And so, Edwin, the simple answer to that is A, price, and B, equity, right? That's it. So, Brian, I think we'll wrap up this week's episode. And so next week, we're going to have our own Mr. Eddie Speed will be back, and Eddie will be doing our monthly update, right?
Super excited.
Again, if you want to see Brian do at a one-day class, go to NoteSchool TV or noteschool.com/TV and check out the schedule. If you can make this week, certainly I would go do it because you'll be glad that you did. So, Brian, any parting words and take us home?
Hey, man, that's it. As always, if this is valuable to you, we'd love it if you subscribe to the channel. If you like the videos, man, go click that like button. It really helps help us direct where the content should be. As always, the goal is to bring you the best. So for those of you who are out there ready to take action, man, keep growing the education. Go out, take action, get involved, and participate. Just refuse to miss this one. You know what I mean? Get involved and take action. We'll plan on seeing you guys next week on NoteSchool TV. Have a great weekend.
See you guys.